Hey there, writer rebels. Are you a romance or romantic comedy author? Well, you definitely want to check out today's video where I have an interview with CELIA MULDER, romance and rom-com author extraordinaire. Hey everyone, it's me, Scarlett Kol, and welcome to my channel. If you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. And if it's your first time, thank you so much for giving me a chance. If you would like to see more videos from me, I usually put them out on Thursdays, and you can hit that subscribe bar and the notification bell to let you know every time I release a video. Today we have a special treat for you. I sat down with author CELIA MULDER, who is a romantic comedy author, and we talked a little bit about writing. Here goes. All right, everybody. So today we have a very, very special guest with us today. We were going to talk a little bit about romance. So I have brought on romance author CELIA MULDER, who has an upcoming book, which we'll be talking about very shortly. But if you want to give everybody a little wave there, CELIA. Hey. So CELIA is a friend of mine as well as a fantastic writer. So I figured she might be a really good first-time guest on the show. I've never actually had a guest before on any of my YouTube videos, so you can consider yourself the first, which is really exciting. And sorry, what's that?
I'm honored.
Thank you. And so I could go on and talk about you, but why don't you tell everybody watching a little bit about yourself?
Sure. As you said, I'm CELIA MULDER, right under that name. I write contemporary queer romances and rom-coms mostly, a little bit of elements of mystery, thinking about going on a side path over into cozy mysteries, but that's a long story. And yeah, I've been writing for a long time, published for a couple of years now. Scarlett and I got published in the same year, which was really exciting. And by day, I'm a librarian, which is fun and another adventure, and we're gonna have to do a whole other video about that. And yeah, from Michigan, and that's about it. That's all you need to know about me.
Awesome. So your first book, Celebrity Spin Doctor, you said came out in 2018, and the sequel to Celebrity Spin Doctor, the issue with Anton's, is coming out on September 29th, but it's already available for pre-order in case anybody's interested. This is definitely a rom-com kind of series. It's fun, it's campy, I've read it, I love it. Can you tell everybody a little bit about this series and what inspired you to write that series?
Of course. So Celebrity Spin Doctor came about one night when I was at the grocery store and I saw a cover of a National Enquirer that had a new Beyonce scandal on it, but this terrible grainy photo that just didn't look anything like Beyonce. And I was like, who writes this crap? And I thought to myself, my main character writes it. And the reason she writes it is because she's covering up worse things that the celebrities are getting up to. So all of her clients, she's a celebrity spin doctor, and all of her clients are involved in some sort of big scandals. A lot of them are socially unacceptable scandals, and they need some cover up. Yeah, they need some cover up and some reputation management. So Lucille Anton gets paid the big bucks to manage their reputation, keep people from finding out what's really going on in their lives, and keep their career going. And that's all going great and fine until superstar Michelle Polsey comes into her life and tells her that his fiance, the heiress Sylvia Stanton, is trying to murder him, and could she please cover it up because he doesn't want anyone knowing about it. This then leads her to try to save Michelle, but at the same time try to figure out kind of like what's really going on here. And it all gets very much more complicated. First of all, when Michelle's best friend, Brett, stumbles into the hotel room and demands to know what's happening. And then when they find out that Sylvia has actually been kidnapped and is being held captive on the island owned by her family, this private resort island owned by her family, and they need to go rescue her. So there's a lot of shenanigans. There's a lot of changing gears all the time. They're just like, oh, wait, plot twist, this is now happening. We now have to go to this island and save your fiance, who is still trying to murder you, possibly, or is doing this for attention and because her father cut her off. It's hard to tell.
That is such a great story, and it was really well received. I know it was up for some awards, which is really great. So the community is really, really liking this story. So obviously there had to be a sequel. So can you tell us a little bit about that sequel?
Of course. So book 2 is The Issue with Anton's. This book follows Lucille's uncle, Simon Anton. He is the original celebrity spin doctor. Even though he's her uncle, he's not that much older than her. They're pretty close in age. They both have really messy family life and have kind of bonded together until Simon goes on the run for 8 years after he's charged with a murder he didn't commit. So Simon is now back, and he's trying to get his life back in control. But the only person who's taking his calls is Michelle Palsy, who likes to inadvertently start the plots of these romance novels. So Michelle comes to him and says, hey, I have this big thing that I'm working on, and I need your help with it. Meanwhile, this guy that Simon met while he was on his fugitive, mostly hanging out at resorts, islands, and trying to pick up hot men and like get them to buy him stuff. So one of the guys he met there, JP Tanaka, is a CEO of a big tech organization, and he has been trying to find Simon again. They had this great moment on the island, and he's been looking for Simon since then. JP happens to know Michelle and shows up at this club the same time that Simon does. So they are reconnected, but they doesn't seem to be going anywhere. JP realized that Simon was lying to him and is kind of hurt and upset about it. And Simon is just trying to figure out what's going on with Michelle. But of course, Michelle brings them back together by telling them that he's gone off with this really dangerous group and leaving them a note about it, and then disappearing off the face of the planet. So
As one does.
they have to go and rescue Michelle again. It seems to be his plot. So they end up going to what they think is going to be a fun, like, secret sex party that has some dangerous people at it who they have to get Michelle away from, but they fully intend to just like have the time of their lives at this party as well. That's not really what it turns out to be. Of course, Lucille and Brett get involved because I couldn't leave Lucille behind. This is big news, and Brett is devastated that Michelle has disappeared and he needs to help find him, and so the gang's all back together and they're going undercover.
Awesome. That sounds really, really great. I'm excited for it. My first question then is, why romantic comedy? There's so many different genres of romance. There's so many different genres that you read just personally and as a librarian. What drew you to romantic comedy?
So when I first started reading romances, I was like, this genre is a lot of fun. It seems like a lot of fun to write. It seems like these authors are having a great time. And I had just started kind of figuring out what book I was going to actually finish. Like I had a ton of stories in my head. I had parts of books written. I had huge fantasy epics. I had, a lot of sci-fi worlds, fantasy worlds. That was what I read growing up. So it was kind of what I thought I was going to end up writing. And then I went to my first RT conference, RIP
Where you
RT.
met wonderful people like
Met Scarlett, and all of our other wonderful friends there. And it was just such a fun experience where everyone took romance novels both so seriously, but then also had so much fun with them. And I could see that the writers were enjoying what they did a lot, were enjoying what they wrote, and there seemed to be room for more people to join. Like there is always room for more people in romance, and we can bring in new voices and we can tell new stories, and it's not just formulaic small shorts like Harlequin serials, which I also love reading, but it's not just those. There's a lot of space for growth in romance, and I really latched onto that and really enjoyed it. The reason rom-coms happened is because I originally wrote Celebrity Spin Doctor in first person, and it was a drama. It was a contemporary romance drama. It was horrible. It was like I was listening to the Twilight soundtracks during it. It was dark. I read through it, and I was like, I can't do this. I have to rewrite it as a comedy. So Comedy, I can't leave the comedy behind. It just comes in all the time. I really enjoy reading it. I really enjoy writing it. I think there's a lot you can do with comedy. And sometimes you just need to tell those really joyful stories. The Celebrity Spin Doctor series is a totally ridiculous, over the top series, which I've had a lot of fun writing. But I do intend to go more into like telling stories about people who aren't always represented with super joyful, fun comedy stories in other books and in other media.
That's exciting. It sounds like you've got like a plan going forward, which is really great. So for those people who are so we get a lot of writers on this channel. So for getting into romance and getting into romantic comedy, what do you think are the key things that a writer needs to either have or do in that sort of genre?
So the first thing is you're going to have to punch up your jokes multiple times in your rewrites. Every scene can be funnier. And you'll realize that some things you thought were really funny when you were writing them are actually cringy and should be taken out. So there's always those possibilities. I remember hearing that during a talk from Christina Lauren, which was one of my first rom-com talks that I listened to, about going back and just punching up every joke that you have. How can this scene be funnier? What can I add to the situation? What can I have the characters say? How can it be funnier? I tend to do a lot of character comedy, so I develop characters who don't mix well with each other, or they kind of clash in some ways. Just having them in the same room turns out to be comedy, and the things that they say and how they like get on each other's nerves accidentally. So that's my type of comedy. There's definitely more of a situational comedy, where you can put all your characters in a really weird and awkward situation and see what happens to them. Watch a lot of sitcoms and just kind of analyze, how do they make these funny? Like, is it all joke telling in the dialogue, or are the characters in situations that are really awkward and uncomfortable, or that lend themselves well to comedy? Yeah, I also took screenwriting, but there's a thing in screenwriting that's the like black comedy moments, where it's just like a big event or a big instant, and you have all of your characters there, and it's just out of control in a little bit, and all of the characters are cracking jokes or doing weird things, or it's just nonstop comedy. Those are really fun to read, and they're really fun to write.
That's awesome. So because you've done screenwriting, you've read a lot of romantic comedy and romance, you've written a lot of romantic comedy and romance, what do you think is the biggest, or if you have more than one, biggest mistakes that authors make when they try to write romance or romantic comedy?
Lately, I've noticed it's when they don't kind of update character roles and gender roles in their books. And this is a particular bothersome for me, but I think it is for more and more readers as well, where that kind of chick lit comedy that was really popular in the 90s, early 2000s, where you have a 30-something or older heroine. Well, actually, it's more like a 20-something who for some reason has a lot of money and lives in New York. And they're constantly self-conscious about their weight and not thinking they look good enough. And those things have a place, and we've moved kind of beyond that. The comedy that we want to see now are people who, especially women in these books, who love themselves, who are like really proud of who they are, and are just funny people. And you can make them have dark moments, and they can screw up a lot, but it doesn't all have to be about their body image and their dieting and them thinking, oh my God, I'm so single, no one will ever love me, no one will ever want to marry me, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't have to be the plot point, if that makes sense. Like,
Oh, that totally does.
yeah, they can be happy being single, but also want to be in a relationship.
Okay. Nope. Very cool.
Or unhappy being single, want to be in a relationship and it's not working out, and that's cool too, because they're not, they're not willing to compromise. And that's good too for
Awesome. Well,
however
that kind of leads me into like one of the other things you were talking about is that you said that you're a queer writer, and we do obviously in the issue with Anton's, you've already kind of discussed that we do have a male-male relationship in there. So obviously we've come a long way over the years in terms of LGBT representation in books and all that sort of thing. What do you feel that you bring to the table in terms of LGBT representation, and why do you feel that it's important in the books that you're writing?
It's a great question.
Thank you.
It was an easy move for me. Being queer myself, it kind of makes sense that you write about your own experiences, and if you're not seeing yourself in books that you read, then you really want to see yourself in books that you read. You want to add to that representation. My favorite Toni Morrison quote, if you can't find the book you want to read, write it. I'm paraphrasing that, but that's the gist of her quote. And that was part of it, is that I wasn't seeing books that represented me, and I still don't see them. It's still a slow journey, because I will say a lot of the queer romance out there is are male romances written by women, which I just wrote one, so we're all on a learning path. And they're really fun and good to write, and I think it's time to start expanding and have all sorts of queer couples in romances, even single queer people in romances, and that it's all good and all representative, so that readers can see themselves, and we all see that representation. So we're all used to reading about other people. So when we meet people in person, it's not as much of a shock, or we don't have as many of those awkward and cringy questions like, what does that mean? Or like, what are you talking about? I've never heard that before. The goal is that you don't ask those, that you can go beyond and like talk to the person and be like, oh yeah, I know what it means to be a trans woman, because, well, not personally, you don't know personally, but like I've heard the term, I've read a lot of books about people who are trans and their experience, and this is great. But then there's also so many books out there that are about LGBTQ people who are really sad downers, because there is a lot of sadness, and there's a lot of trauma, and there's a lot of hate. And so romance allows you to write the fun, happy, fluffy kind of fantasy type books about people and everyone getting their happy ending, which is amazing. That's why I love writing them.
That's
so
awesome.
if you're looking to write one and you're like, well, I don't really know how to write a lesbian romance because I'm not personally, I'm not gay myself. And so like, how do I write a lesbian romance? Read lesbian romances, preferably by people who identify as a lesbian themselves, is a good way to start, so you can see how they create their characters and how they create their love scenes. But like, none of us know how to write, or none of us have met that many sexy cowboys or dukes or whatever else it is. I mean, maybe you, but
I'd like to meet more sexy cowboys.
So we're all writing based on other books that we read. We're all writing these characters because we're like, oh yeah, I've read a lot of cowboy romances. I know how to wrangle sheep or whatever. I don't think you wrangle sheep, but
I don't know either. Not a lot of sheep in Michigan.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't hang out with them. So, yeah, so you're like, well, I know all about Regency England because I've read a ton of books about Regency England and I've done my research. It's the same thing with writing people from different backgrounds and with different identities. You do your research, you read books written by others, and then when you go to write your own, you're like, oh yeah, this is still a character. And they still have the same thoughts and insecurities, and like there's still a person. No. And so they still have a lot of the same characteristics that another character does. It's just that they're gonna fall in love with another woman instead of guy.
Love is love.
Yeah. And also, sex scenes and romances, let's be honest, they're all fantasy anyways, so you might as well just go
for
all
it.
in.
Speaking of, you said one thing about it is reading widely. So who are your favorite authors?
Oh my gosh, such a long question. Okay.
Well, can you break it down to top 5?
I'm going to specifically talk about my top 5 romance authors. I have a lot of favorite authors. I do read widely. The only thing I don't read is horror because I get nightmares. Recently picked up thrillers, not my thing, but we're still trying. So favorite romance writers, one of my current favorites right now is Rebecca Weatherspoon. Her cowboy romance series. I've probably told everyone about it multiple times. Her first book is Cowboy Amnesia Romance. Amazing. It's everything I want it to be. And the second book comes out in October, and I already have it pre-ordered, and I've had it pre-ordered since March. Definitely one of my favorites. Annabeth Albert, absolutely my favorite. She is a male romance author who writes really fantastic series. Like, they're full of all the feels, and you just devour all of them. Like, when I start one of her series, I know this is going to be a journey and I'm not going to be able to stop until I read the last one. So
That's exciting.
I better have prepared really well. Let's see. Those are the two from the top of my head.
Okay.
Alyssa Cole.
Okay.
She's also one of my favorites.
She writes historicals, right?
She writes a little bit of a lot of things. Her first series was actually more sci-fi dystopian. Her main series that she's known for is historical Civil War era, but a different type of Civil War story, which is fantastic romance. She has a current contemporary like royalty series, and then her latest book is a thriller which has been described as Get Out meets Rear Window. That one just came out when no one is watching. It is sitting on my shelf right now. I have a feeling it's going to scare me half to death, and I'm going to need to read it in one sitting.
Well, you'll have to definitely let us know how it is.
I'm obsessed.
So those are your favorite romance authors, but in terms of being a better author yourself, if you had to suggest one craft book, what would it be?
It's a golden oldie. I always suggest Writing Down the Bones by Natalie Goldberg. It's so good. It's a short book. It's cut down into little short essays that you can read at a time. And basically her philosophy is that anyone can write. Everyone has stories to tell them. And the main thing to do is to start writing, not to start writing a book, not to start writing a piece that's going to be anything, but just to sit down for 10 minutes with your pen and your pad of paper and write. Just go for 10 minutes is what she says. And then when you're done with that, go for 15 minutes. And then when you're done with that, just keep trying it again. Maybe do another 10 minutes on any subject. So it could be what's sitting right in front of you, the first thing you think of, something that happened earlier that day. And I have found this philosophy to be so, so good, especially when you're blocked and especially when you're feeling like you're a terrible writer. You don't know what to write about. Your current work in progress just seems really elusive. And back when I had finished the first draft of Celebrity Spin Doctor and it was terrible and dark and I didn't know what to do with it, I found this book and that's what I did just for weeks on end, was just short writings. I have a whole notebook that's just full of it. And there are some pieces in there. I went back through and there's little ideas hidden in it because you're just letting your brain go and letting it kind of get through all of these thoughts that are swirling around until you find something that's actually something I can use. You don't pick up your pen during the whole thing, you just write.
That's exciting. I'll try and look that book up and include it in the description box below if anybody wants to check that out. Plus, it sounds like something I'm going to check out too, so it'll just be my own little research on the side, which will be exciting. All right, so my next question for you is, what do you think is the number one thing you wish you would have known before you became an author?
I'm going to take it as a published author. So
yes,
I like to call myself an author way back when I was 8 years old and I wrote horse stories.
Aw, maybe you were meant to write sexy cowboys.
No, these horse stories, the horses were wild and free and they lived on an island by themselves. There were no humans.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm, yeah. I was 8. That was very important to me. The thing I wish I'd known before I got published was, I guess, it is very vulnerable sharing your work. So the more times you can share your work beforehand, whether that's with friends and family, or even better would be a writing group of people who are not your friends and family, who you can share your work with and get critiques back and just kind of get used to that process of having somebody else read your work and telling you what they think about it is amazing. Like, I did some, but I've done way more since the first book came out, and you learn so much about what is important to take away from those critique sessions and how to be humble about your writing, but at the same time, how to know when your writing's ready to share. Like, your first draft is not ready to share. It's really rough.
Really
It's not ready. And if you share your first draft before it's ready, you'll feel really disappointed because people will say, "Ooh, this isn't great," if they're honest to you. Otherwise, they'll say it's great, and then you read it later and you go, "Oh, they were lying to me."
Ouch.
Bummer. But if you share it when it is ready, like second draft, third draft for some people, then you can actually get the feedback that you need, but you also feel strong enough in the story and strongly connected to the story so you can withstand that feedback. So you can say, that actually is a great idea and it's going to make the story better. But if you share it at that vulnerable first draft time, then you'll be like, that's it. The whole story is destroyed. I can't. At least that's my experience.
All right. So what do you think is the biggest mistake you've made as a writer? That if you had to do it over again, you would have changed your mind? Is there anything that you would have done differently?
Currently, which Scarlett's heard me complain about this for 2 years, it is that I decided to turn this into a series after the first book was published.
Oh, fair enough. Yes, I have heard this.
So first of all, it's taken 2 years for the second book to get out. And then it's going to be another year before the third book is out. And by the time I got to the second book, I don't plot very well. I don't like it, and I don't do it. I couldn't remember anything about what the characters look like. I was like, no idea on eye color, hair color, what's anything about them. So I was like, okay, cool. Now I have to go back and read my first book and find out what my characters looked like. Yeah, I've seen people who have the whole series written and then release it, or at least have the whole series mapped out and then release it. I don't know about writing the whole thing first. I don't know that that's going to happen for me, but I do like the idea of having it mapped out and having some character guidance to lead you through.
All right. So we were kind of talking about some downer topics now, but so as an author or as a writer or anything, what was the most exciting moment for you so far? There's lots to come, I'm sure.
Yeah, right. I would say it's the day my book came out, but that was a very surreal day and I didn't really believe it, that it was happening.
It does feel weird because it's all the stuff happening like outside of you, right? Like You see it on the internet and people say things, your mom calls, but it's just like, I guess it's out now.
Yeah, cool, it's out.
Because you obsessed for it for so long leading up to that point that you're just like, it's in your head. It's almost like it is out, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh yeah, I was done with that a year ago. What's going on? Or not a year, but a few months ago. So the most exciting parts were when I got the email from my publisher that said my book was accepted. That was very exciting. And then I also didn't believe that that was happening. I was in class at the time, and I made the person next to me read my email 3
Aw.
times till I believed it. I was like, is this for real? And then the day I got the phone call to tell me I'd been nominated for the Ritas, I kind of just lost it. So
I remember text messages after that. That was exciting.
I was like shaking. I was so excited.
And if anybody didn't know, she was up for Best Mid-Length Contemporary and Best First Book, which was awesome.
Yes. Lost out to some good books, but it
That's
happens.
the breaks though, right?
That wasn't the exciting moment. The exciting moment was the phone calls.
Oh,
After
for
that, I was
sure.
like, whatever happens.
That's awesome. So we're probably going to wrap this up a little bit because I'm sure this video is getting like super, super long, but we will definitely have to have you back with your librarian hat on because I'm sure there's people out there who'd be interested in knowing how to get your books into libraries, how to work with librarians, all that fun stuff. So we will definitely have a chat about that one. Maybe it'll be a little bit after NaNoWriMo. I'm going to have some videos coming out for NaNoWriMo and Preptober and all that fun stuff. And then once people, they've got a draft out there and they're working towards getting that out into the world, then we can start talking about what you can do with it. But before we go, I do want to ask, so what's next for CELIA Mulder, rom-com author extraordinaire?
So many things. Once this book comes out, then Scarlett and I have a Christmas anthology coming out.
We do. I almost forgot that. I know, you're going to get so mad at me.
Yeah, deadlines need to be met. But anyways, we're all good. Christmas wishes and
I'm on it. It's all good.
Middle of October, which is apparently the time when all Christmas books come out.
Yes.
I know that from the library world. Don't know. I mean, I do know why, but I also am like, it's a little early. Oh well. So we have that one coming out. I will be working on the 3rd book in this series, which switches back to Lucille again. She had more to say, so we have to get through here. That one does not have a title yet, and it's a little bit in shambles at the moment, so I will pull that back in. I have ideas for a lot of other stories, a bunch of other drafts, and most of them contemporary. I'm trying out some different things. Summer fling romance, snowed in together in the middle of winter romance, summer camp.
That sounds like a nice seasonal box set, man.
It really, I mean, they're all going to be very different, but I like to take really fun, ridiculous tropes and see what you can do with them, because romance novels are so full of tropes, and tropes are really fun to deal with. So you're like, oh, snowed in together, forced proximity trope. What would happen with these two characters when they have to share an apartment in Ann Arbor for like a week because they're snowed in? One of them is running from the media because of his boy band, and then the other one is like in a listless, I don't know what to do with my life type of a situation. So,
oh, you're writing a boy band romance? I'm so up for that.
Oh yeah, it's the first gay boy band, and they are on the rocks because 2 of their members dated each other and then had a messy breakup, and now everyone is like all mad at each other, and the whole thing's about to blow up, and the main character in my story is just like, I need to get out of here for a while. So,
fair enough.
Goes MIA.
Get out of the drama. So it sounds like you have a lot of projects coming up. So this is definitely not going to be the last that we're going to hear from you. I'm really excited about the issue with Anton's coming up. I have read the first Celebrity Spin Doctor. I have had some preview into Celebrity Spin Doctor 3, currently untitled, but I have not read the second one at all, so I'm really excited about checking that out. Thank you so much for joining us today, and if you have anything else to say to the writers out there, what would it be?
Keep writing. That's really all it is. Just keep writing and editing. It's hard, but if you try to quit and you can't, it means you should probably keep writing.
I think we've both gone down that path once or twice.
Oh yeah, where you're just like, this is it. I can't do this anymore. Why am I struggling so much? It's not worth it. I'm going to stop writing. And then 2 days later, you're like, oh yeah, that's a great story idea. I got to write it down.
The one thing I'll probably add here is the one thing that I find makes things a whole lot easier as a writer is having writer friends that you can bounce things off of. So as you can tell, there's probably some inside stories with some of these things, probably how my face reacted when Celia said stuff and whatever. But we met several years ago at a romance convention. We didn't know each other prior to that. And yeah, we just happened to be the odd ones out. Everybody seemed to know each other, and it worked out, and we've collected some extra friends over the years. But it's really, really great and important to have people that you can bounce your ideas off of, and that you can send that, oh my God, I want to quit text message to, and to be able to, have those kinds of conversations that not everybody in your life is going to completely understand if they aren't a writer or haven't done something similar in their lives. But thank you so much for joining me today. It was really fun, and we'll definitely have you back later. So thanks so much, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did enjoy the interview with Celia Mulder, or if you have any questions for her, I can definitely get them to her and we can get them back to you. Just leave them in the comments below, and I can get her that information. If you did like having guests, make sure you leave that in the comments below, and I'll see who else I can find to have up on this channel. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next week.
Bye.